Hey everyone, it's been a while. Looking at this site, it looks like it's been 2 years since I posted an update. Sorry about that. So if you're wondering where I've been busy. And Dave, who had done the videos with me, and people like to hate on his sleeveless shirts, he doesn't want to do the videos anymore, so he's not going to be participating. And he's out doing his own thing. As you can see from some of the videos, the comments he made, he leans a certain way politically, and he was very involved in a lot of protests recently. I'll leave it at that. For the past couple of years, and he is doing his thing, and doesn't want to do more videos, and I respect that. He's a good guy, and I wish him well. And I did think the two-person format was interesting, so it's not just me talking. And I tried to get someone on the other end of the spectrum, a good friend of mine who politically leans way the other way, and he's actually a criminal defense attorney, so I thought that would be interesting to get that perspective, because I am a paper pusher, and Dave was an appellate attorney, so I thought it would be interesting to have an actual defense attorney, and we're working on that, and we'll see where that goes. But I figured I'd do an update, let you guys know how everything's going, and I plan to do more videos. I did have, or do have, another YouTube site where I talk about stocks and stuff like that, and I still been posting on that. But this site, I sort of wanted to do legal analysis, and it was a two-person thing, so we'll see if we can do it as a one-person thing in a while, and then I'll see if I can get some other people like my friend, the defense attorney. So I want to talk about something that's in the news today about the federal workforce, and the new administration is offering them what the media is calling a buyout to get them to leave, and why I think that's a terrible idea to take that offer, and what it means. So the timing is very strange, and I actually have the OPM memo here, and the OPM memo doesn't say that if you leave, they're going to give you 7 months of pay now, and then you just go on with your life. They just said that you will just stay home and not work, which to me seems like a waste of money, and we'll keep paying you until September 31st, and at the end of that, you will not be a federal employee, and you'll be gone. So a few things about that, like the date's very strange. So why September 31st, right? September 30th, excuse me. Why not October 1st? Why not December 31st, 2025? Why September 30th, 2025? And the reason for that is that the uh, fiscal year for the federal government starts on October 1st. So if you resign and you leave on September 30th, then when they do the fiscal year on October 1st and they say how many people are in the federal government, it looks like a lot less. So in an administration that is very preoccupied with how things are perceived, because of the person running the show is a reality uh, star, then appearances matter. And if you can get everyone to leave by September 30th, then on October 1st, you can claim, oh, look at this Department of Government Efficiency. We did so well. We reduced the federal workforce by 4%, 5%, or whatever. Where the reality is quite different. You're wasting money by paying people to do a job, and having them not do the job, because rather than them being at home and doing the work on their computer like I'm doing this video now, they will be at home, and you're going to pay them, and then they're not going to work, because that is part of the offer. Is you are on unpaid leave. You are on paid leave. You are not allowed to work while you're on paid leave. So I think it's a terrible idea, and it's terrible for the government, and it's terrible for the workers as well. And I'll go over that in a second. So I was obsessed with uh, Doge, whatever you want to pronounce it, Department of Government Efficiency, to claim that they're reducing the size of the federal workforce. Reality is quite different. So if you look at the previous 4 years under Trump, uh, this is when he was elected. And generally, when you're elected, a lot of people who are political appointees or people that are eligible to retire leave. And that's same thing happened under Obama, under Biden, under George Bush. So they all leave in the beginning, and that's exactly what happened here. And then after that, under the first Trump administration, the federal government just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. So this kind of strange obsession with saying we're going to shrink the federal government, it's not rooted in reality. It just that's not how things work. And if you are a federal employee, I have the memo here. I'll show why it's not such a great idea. So you are on paid leave and you're going to be not working, and you'll leave on September 30th. So you'll have resigned. You'll give up all your federal benefits, and in exchange for this strange offer. And why is it a strange offer? Well, if they gave you a buyout and then you left tomorrow, you can go find another job and you're fine. Happy birthday. But if you're on this paid leave, you're technically not allowed to work. And this memo is very deceptive because on the question and answer part, it says, can employees get another job outside of their current employment during the period between submission and the final resignation date? And if you were getting your salary and you were able to work another job, that would be great, but that's not how things work. So it says nothing in the deferred resignation letter prevents agency employees from seeking outside employment, prevents them from seeking outside employment. However, employing agencies should assess what restrictions, if any, exist for employees who have resigned but remain employed, including administrative leave by their employing agency. So what does that mean? Well, I used to be a federal worker, and if you wanted to do any type of work outside of the federal government, even pro bono work, you would need permission from your employer, the Office of General Counsel. So for instance, if I worked at the SEC and I wanted to work outside of my government job doing pro bono work at the DC courthouse doing landlord-tenant work or something for free. Even though they're not paying me, I would still need to get permission from my employer. And you can't do something that conflicts with your work. So if you are a securities attorney at the SEC, sure, you can do landlord-tenant stuff, but if you worked at HUD, you could not do landlord-tenant stuff. You could do something else, but you couldn't do that. So if you are an employee, say, of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and you are accepting this offer where you're resigning, and you will resign on September 30th, and you will look for jobs, and somebody offers you a job, you can't take that job because unless they're hiring you for something other than being a securities attorney, which is what you're doing now, and it conflicts with your day job, you couldn't take that job. So you can't work without their permission. So unless you somehow timed it perfectly that your pay would end exactly when you found a new job, and I don't know who is that good at job search, then it would seem silly to take this. And also, because you're resigning, you're giving up a lot of the protections of the federal government. And I will tell you a story that almost made me quit the federal government because I didn't like the way something was handled. And when I started at the government, our agency was taken off the GS system and put on a different pay scale, which was better. And there were a lot of people there who should have left earlier, but there had been talk for years that this was going to happen, and they sort of stuck around longer than they should. And then when this pay came through, they stayed for 3 years, and so that they can get their retirement pension based on these high three things. And I just thought that was a shitty uh, way to do things, and it wasn't somebody being a good human. However, they'd been there so long that it was difficult to get rid of them because there were a lot of protections in place. Well, what kind of protections in place? And I will tell you, this is an absolutely true story. Um, we had somebody, and I'm not going to use his name because he's still alive, but I'll come up with a different name for him. Uh, Fisher. I'll say his last name was Fisher. It wasn't Fisher, but he had a fishy last name. Um, I'll leave it at that. And this guy was a functional alcoholic. And when I started there, and we would do certain things, and I would see work product that he had produced before, and it was excellent. This guy was a person who had worked on the floor of some of the exchanges, and so he knew all the ins and outs, and was a great investigator because he sort of knew how people operated, and was familiar with all the ins and outs, and was a great worker. And then I guess the bottle got the best of him, and I've heard from other coworkers that at times they would have to go to the bar around the corner to get him and bring him in for important meetings. And I remember when I first started, we had an industry event, and it was open bar, and here's the bar, and then here's the place with the chairs, and there's like two steps. And he was so drunk that he literally fell down the steps head first into a table. And these industry events, they held year after year at the same place, but no more open bar because of this guy. And because he had been there so long, you couldn't just fire him. So under the protections in place, they'd have to put him on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. And they would put him on a PIP, he would stop drinking, they'd take him off the PIP, and then he'd start drinking again. Then they put him on the PIP, he'd stop drinking, take him off the PIP, he'd start drinking again. And this went on for about 2 years, and then I think he didn't realize that everyone knew he was an alcoholic. He thought he was just, it, his boss knew, but nobody else knew. And at some point, he just gave up and said, "Okay, I'm eligible to retire. I've been here long enough. I'm going to retire." Then left. But that process took 2 years. So if you accept this offer, you're giving up, if you've been there a while, a lot of the protections. And why would you do that? If you're doing your job at home and they want you to come in and you don't come in, they can't say you're fired. They will say, "We're going to put you on a PIP because you're not coming into the office." And then you come to the office, they take you off the PIP, and then you stay home again. And you can keep that going for a while, and it's going to be a lot longer than the 7 months they're giving you here. And if you're worried about me getting fired for telling you this, don't worry about that. I quit January 1st. I left the federal government. I don't need the money. I do pretty well picking stocks, as you would know if you were one of the 200 people who watch my stock channel. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, don't leave. Make them kick you out. Second of all, a lot of agencies, like the one I worked at, have collective bargaining agreements in place. And under that collective bargaining agreement, it provided for telework. And, we'd have to come in once or twice a week. And then the rest of the time you can sit home. And that's the agreement you signed. And if they want to go against that, then let them try and make you. But it's not going to happen without a fight. And if everyone does it, this is just going to get ground to a halt. And good luck with that. So I don't think this is a good idea for most people to take. And, if you have a collective bargaining agreement in place, definitely don't take that. And if you don't, use the PIP procedure. So if you've been there over 2 years, you have the protections under law, because the federal government is supposed to be people who are mandarins. They're not uh, beholden to any political party. You know, you don't want some political party coming in and sweeping out everybody and putting their own flunkies, and then it changes every 4 years to people who are loyal to the party and not loyal to the U.S. people. Uh, the government is supposed to serve the people, not a political party. So that's why those protections are in place, because you want career civil service people who uh, love America and love the Constitution and not any particular party. And so you want to make it difficult to fire them for political reasons. So that's that. So don't take it. Make them make you leave and do the PIP process. Second of all, a lot of agencies, including mine or my former agency, based on telework, when their lease is up, they sign new leases for smaller space, which actually saves the taxpayer money because uh, if you don't need as much room at headquarters, then uh, you're paying less rent, and that difference goes to the federal coffers. So, since they have a smaller space, if you try to make everyone come in, there would literally not be any place to put them. So they signed a lease for a smaller space, and now if you try to make everyone come in every day, there would be 20% of the people that literally would have no place to sit or stand. So what would you do with them? Are you going to send them home? I don't know. You tell me. Second of all, there's times when in person makes sense and there's times when it doesn't. So there's agencies like the Patent and Trademark Office that have had full-time telework since before the pandemic. And why is that? Because if you're a patent examiner, you don't need to be in one location and talk to other people. What you need to do is sit at your desk with a pile of patent applications and go through them and mark them up and put them on your computer, and you can do that anywhere. So at the Patent and Trademark Office in Alexandria, you go there when you're hired for the first 6 months, and then you do the training, and then they give you your laptop, and then you can come in if you want and do that work here. You can stay home if you want and do that work there. You can go to another state and do that work. Wherever you want to do that work, because it just involves you looking at the papers and filling out these forms, and doesn't involve interacting with other people. And you talking to other people and interacting with other people and schmoozing will only make your job worse, because it keeps you from being productive. Uh, so that's that. And also, just if you were starting with a clean sheet of paper, I don't think we would have as much in-person work as we do. So I used to work in the financial markets, and there are exchanges that up until the pandemic operated with hand signals. So if you're holding your hand out, I'm offering to sell. If you're holding your hand this way, I'm offering to buy. So, one contract at two, one contract at two, I'm offering to buy. And if somebody says one contract at two, one contract at two, and we agree, we write it down and throw it in the middle of this trading pit. And there's literally a guy with goggles, because he doesn't want to get hit in the eye with glasses, who crawls around on the floor and picks up these pieces of paper. And when I started at the federal government, they took me on a tour of one of these exchanges, and I said, "Hey, I'm really glad to see this, because this won't exist one day, and I'm glad that I've seen it in person." And this guy looked at me like I was crazy and said, "They've been doing it this way for 150 years. My grandfather was on this exchange. My grandkids will be trading stuff here." So I said, "Okay, whatever." Then the pandemic happened, and there was no need for in-person. People were doing things on the computer. They're not going to come back and sit in those pits and make gang signs at each other, because that's the way we did it originally. If it doesn't make sense, if you start with a clean sheet of paper, you shouldn't be doing it now. And if I said to you, it's 2025, let's assume for another 20 years, people did work from home, and then 20 years from now, 2045, even if the technology has not gotten better, somebody says like, "Hey, we've got some consultants in from Bain or McKinsey or wherever, and we have this idea. Instead of everyone doing the work the way we've been doing it, we'll have you lose a couple of hours a day commuting, and you're going to drive down or take the subway, and then you're going to go to this office that's inconvenient. And if you're important, you're going to have a door that closes. If not, you're going to have cubicles where we can look at what you're doing, but not in a systematic way, just as we're walking by. And the hope is that the people that have the doors, uh, when they're walking around, going to the kitchen or going to the bathroom, they'll run into other people who have the doors, and they'll have conversations that are spontaneous and important, and it'll be so good that it'll pay for the office and pay for the commute and pay for your dry cleaning. You'd say that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Well, that's what you're suggesting. So the agency I worked at, they had offices in New York and Chicago, and when somebody would email me something, I would look at it on my computer. I wouldn't have to say, "Hey, you should book a flight here and come to my office and then hand me that paper in person," because that is stupid. And actually, even when I first started, way before telework, if I was working on an important rulemaking or anything like that, I would take all my papers, I would leave my office, and I would go down to the library because I didn't want to be disturbed. And all those, "Hey, you got a minute?" or "Hey, can you jump on the call with me?" or "Can I ask you a quick question?" Those are not productive. So during the pandemic, I was a lot more productive at home than I was at work because I didn't have interruptions. And maybe other people are different, but for me, it was better. And I'm not saying this because I want to stay home. I am home. I don't work for the government anymore. I'm saying this because it worked. And if it keeps working, I don't know why you want to change it. And as I said, if you started over with a clean sheet of paper, you wouldn't decide that you should come to the office every day, all day. I think that's kind of silly. And it's especially silly if I had a call with a colleague in Chicago, and I get on the subway, I go to my office, and then he gets on the subway and goes to his office, and then we call each other from our offices. Uh, what's the difference between that and, I'm home and he's home and we call each other? It makes no difference whatsoever. Anyway, that's my rant. So who should take this offer besides crazy people? I think if you've been in the government for a year and you don't have your probationary period, I don't know, this might work. And there's somebody I'm thinking of specifically who worked at an office in an agency that existed under Bush, existed under Obama, existed under both political parties. But when Trump was in office, he did away with that office. And when Biden got in office, the office came back, and he was hired for this position about a year ago. And unfortunately, you get certain protections after a year or two, depending on the agency. But because the position he had required security clearance, that 1 or 2 year period doesn't start until his security clearance is done. So even though he'd been there over a year, technically his probationary period hasn't even started. So according to this, if you voluntarily resign and you can sit home and they'll pay you till September, uh, they've already fired his boss, and if if he thinks he's going to be a goner any day, I think this might be something you can take advantage of. But for everyone else, I think it's a terrible idea for the reasons stated. Anyway, that's my rant for now. I'm sure you'll leave nasty comments in the comment section, and I don't care. That actually helps the algorithm. So if you want to do that, go ahead. But I will be back, and as I said, I'm talking to a friend who's a defense attorney, and whereas Dave was politically left-leaning, he's politically right-leaning, so should be an interesting take. and he defends all kind of people. He has defended some of the January 6th defendants, and he's also defended Black Lives Matter protesters. So he gets them from all sides, and has an interesting take. And he told me that he had been punched in the face once by one of his clients, and that is the sign of a true defense attorney, that you can't call yourself a real criminal defense attorney until you've been attacked by one of your clients. And when I was at his office, and apparently everyone there has been attacked by a client at least once. So that should be an interesting discussion. But anyway, that's my thought on the return to work and the deferred resignation and all that. And hopefully it won't be 2 years before my next update, but we'll talk soon.